Today we have a light carbon bike. In fact, this actually came from a customer who's basically a fan of the Hambini channel, who essentially went on Hambini's affiliate links and brought Hambini's recommended car, and why not? So he ended up with this frame and these set of 9 Velo wheels and a whole bunch of other bits and pieces. Picked himself up a super cheap group set from an online retailer of some description and has asked us to build it, ride wrap it, do all of that sort of good stuff. It gives us a good opportunity to take a look, because this is the first time I have seen a light carbon frame. First impressions then are, it looks pretty good actually. Surfaces look pretty clean. My almost go-to is to start looking around and just seeing for any signs of obvious paint overspray. That's normally your first red flag. And this actually looks pretty nice. I mean, all the dropouts are nice and clean. It's actually come without all the mech hangers installed. I haven't taken this off. This is how it came. So you get a really good look without having to remove anything. The bottom bracket looks very clean. One thing that does strike me is it's very bendy, flexy. Like I can press this with my thumbs. It feels like a factor. That's very, very thin. And so is it up here as well. Probably even more so than the SL8, Scott Addict, etc. That is very, very thin and flexy. Not really my vibe, but let's take a quick look at the weight. So this is without any frame fixtures. Oh, I guess apart from the front mech, which is riveted on, 970 grams for a size 56, I think this is. So I wouldn't put it in the super lightweight category, but it's definitely on par with what's on the market, I suppose. Quick fitment and fittings check. So the headset actually looks very clean. There's one tiny little flake of carbon that's come off here. It's not enough that I'd want to fill it. Sometimes we do that and go in there, fill it and then sand it back down. But that's actually, it's so minor, it's hardly worth talking about. The headset bearings, actually a pretty good fit. There's a slightly rough edge across the top here where the paint's just not sort of hit the top, so to speak, but I don't think that'll affect things too much. Yep, that's a nice fit. It doesn't rock. Again, quite a rough edge across here. Might just take a light sand just to get rid of those little paint bobs there. But otherwise, the actual bearing seat is very good. Bottom bracket is actually a 68mm Selle T47, so you actually have to install an external bottom bracket. More on that in a second, but it does look like the faces have been masked off. I don't think these have been faced because there's a slight chamfer to them. You can actually see the chamfer, and the threads are clean, but they are quite rough finished. And if I just take a bottom bracket and try and thread this in, yeah, that's perfectly fine. That's what a bottom bracket like this should be. You should be able to hand tighten it all the way, because you want your tightening torque to actually tighten it, not just overcome friction in the threads. Seat post is an integrated affair, and actually that looks like a pretty nice fit. There's arguably a small gap on one side, but that's pretty standard. And then down at the brake mounts, big fan of this, slightly raised surface so that if there are any problems, we can actually get a tool onto that and actually make some differences. But a very, very quick, simple check is just to clamp down one side with your finger and thumb. And if you see the other side rock, then you normally have a problem. That looks solid. One little point about the rear mech actually, this is what the rear mech looked like. It's a 2-piece, loving that. I don't recognize this. At first I thought it looked similar to the Planet X and the Ribble ones, but it's not. I haven't managed to find one, but one of my biggest bugbears with Chinese frames is these sort of things become quite a rare commodity. They tend to move their product development along quite quickly and leave these sort of things behind. So a few years down the line, you struggle to find these. So they have actually included 2 in the box, which is freaking awesome, to be fair. They've actually even included a spare set of headset bearings. They're not the best quality in the world, but hey, you got a spare set. But yeah, if anyone recognizes that, let me know. I've not seen them on any of our popular websites like Gear Mech Hanger, Pilo, etc. Looks slightly different to anything else I recognise. So hopefully Light Bicycle will support this with spare parts for like many years to come, rather than just sort of a flash in the pan like most sort of carbon frames are. The fork, I've got to say, great quality. You can see the big thickness in carbon here. The actual brake hose comes out on this side, so running this for a UK brake is going to be quite challenging, because we now have to take the brake exit here and sort of wrap it around so that the brake comes out on this side of the compression bung. So if you can imagine how that's going to sit, so the brake's going to come up here, we need to run it through, and then it needs to come out on this side, whereas for most Europeans, etc., it's going to come out on the other side, not a problem. Tend to like to see this a bit more centralized if we can. It makes the cable routing a bit easy. You don't have that problem where the steering is sort of influenced by the cable pull, but we can change that. Brake mounts, again, look super good, and the axles are a little bit on the stiff side, but they're also a closed off design. I'm not a massive fan of this, because if for whatever reason you ever fudge it, let's say your mate borrows your bike and he tries to install the wrong axle with the wrong thread pitch or something, or you ham-fisted do a change of this, you're stuck. You can't get a frame tap through there. You actually see this has actually got an aluminium cap. It might look clean, it might be marginally aero, but if that ever gets damaged, it is almost impossible to repair. You'd have to sort of drill that out and then tap all the way through, and then you end up with a cosmetic problem on this side. But hey ho, it is what it is. Now, this frame set actually comes with a handlebar as well. That's the handlebar. There's not really much to say about it actually. It's quite a nice design. There's no markings on it or anything. It's odd that it's still got the holes here when it's going to be internally routed. These seem to be fairly redundant, but not much to say about it. Right, what I want to do next, one, get the boroscope on it and take a look on the inside, and get everything assembled and see what our sort of built up, our minimum build weight would be, if you like. Okay, let's take a look on the inside. First of all, you'll be very impressed. Look, there's Tom. The inside of the bottom bracket here. This looks very, very clean. That bonding looks really nice. So we are right in the middle of the down tube here, and it is super clean. You can look down the tubes and you can see this is very clean. It's probably like an EPS molding, so it's probably had something fairly solid on the inside there that's then been removed. Doesn't look like there's any sort of signs of tenting or ridges that you'd associate with a plastic bag compaction. Let's have a quick look down, and what we're looking for by going into the chainstay is this blob of glue you can see is where the dropouts are glued to the rest of the monocoque. What we're looking for is a good layer of glue around there. Everything is set, there's no sort of obvious miss sections. Very quickly around this headset area, again, you can just see just how clean this is. Look at that. Super clean construction, and that whole head tube actually is just beautifully smooth on the inside. So I'd say this is very comparable to the Giant TCR Advanced SL. Remember the SL version in terms of its construction and finishing quality on the inside. Significantly better than the Colnago and most other things that we see around here as well. This sort of smooth construction seems to be becoming much more common. Now, next stage, let's get this whole frame set built up. I want to see like what the minimum achievable weight is. So the compression bung here is actually a metallic piece. That's nice. But this is our top cap, probably of a very normal quality, to be fair. There's nothing really much to comment about it. It looks very familiar. I mean, a lot of these frames roughly all use very standard components. Now, this is an area where you sometimes see problems. There's a little locating pin that keeps us all intact. And I was worried about that rough paint surface actually impacting the clearance between the paint and this top cap, but you can probably see there's quite a gap, so it's not going to touch, but to ensure it doesn't touch, you've actually got quite a large gap, so water ingress and that sort of thing. And there is no rubber lip on the inside here. There's no kind of waterproofing layer or to try and keep any sort of water or dirt out of there. So you get 3 centimeters of spacers included. A couple more things to add. One, we have a compression bung that is 40 grams, and we have a whole bunch of top caps and stuff out there. Again, could be lighter. That's almost 18 grams. Little waterproof slider for the seat post here, and we have a Di2 battery bung as well. Interestingly, with the frame bungs here, there is actually blanking plates here for the front mech. So they've actually provided 2 Di2 routines, but it doesn't make any sense because you've already got a Di2 output here and you've got one here as well. So you can run mechanical, except that they haven't provided a cable guide for the bottom here or a grommet for this section here. So I'm not quite sure how that would work in practice with mechanical. That needs to be bunged up because there isn't a complete blank for that. And if you were to run mechanical, you'd have to do something to run the cable stop there. So we seem to be missing a few bits and pieces. If you are running SRAM, there are some complete blanks to cover this and this, but you're still left with a hole here. So there's a few little afterthought details which sort of don't make sense. You're still going to be left with holes in the frame. Oh yeah, and weirdly you get an alternative top cap in the box. I'm not entirely sure what that is for. So that's all our little bits of frame paraphernalia. Going to tuck that in there for now. And so our total all up minimum weight, if you like, by the time you've got all the bits and pieces added, is 2.21 kilos. So not what I would call in the light carbon category, but definitely sort of on par, especially for its price. One thing worth mentioning is this is T47 external, so 68mm wide bottom bracket, which means that you need to install a bottom bracket like this. This is the Hambini bottom bracket, and this weighs an astonishing 176 grams. That's a beefy bottom bracket. Now, normally when we see carbon frames with the T47, it's normally on the internal standard, so 89mm wide bottom bracket, and you would see a bottom bracket like this where the bearings actually still sit inside the frames. Loads of advantages with that. One, because you've got a wider bottom bracket, you can widen these chainstays out, gives you some more tyre clearance. And the other thing is it increases the rigidity of the frame because the bearings are a lot closer to the pedalling axis. These bottom brackets are normally also a fair bit lighter. There we go, 111 grams. So in terms of making a light bicycle, having T47 external is a bit of a weird choice. You'd normally only see this on like titanium frames, steel frames, that sort of thing. This is the Chris King standard that then got adapted because everyone wanted threads back in their carbon frame for some reason. Ideally, this frame would be much better suited to a BB386 Evo, but hey ho, we are where we are. Here we go then, back in the studio because the guys are hard at work downstairs. Frame is all built up. It built up absolutely perfectly. A bit squishy. Love all your comments on that. Anyway, time to talk about these wheels. These are the 9 Velo CD55s. Now, a lot of what I'm looking at here is very, very familiar. All these hubs are what they call OEM. So they're made by a certain company and then rebranded. I'm not entirely sure which brand it is. There's a few different ones. It could be like KTI or something like that. But I mean, they look identical to like the fast forward ones. The machining, you can kind of tell that they all look very, very similar. So the first thing I want to do is weigh them. So we've got a couple of valves on there already at 11 grams. Add a rear wheel, 839. And let's just balance front wheel on there to give us the wheel set. Gives us 1,525 grams for the wheel set, including rim tape and including valves. So, okay, nothing exceptional, but it is okay. Like most of these wheels, they're all doing a various or copy of the DT Swiss. So similar sort of end cap situations, some very similar free hub situations, although these sometimes work out slightly differently. There's no seal on there. That is just all aluminium. There's no rubberized seal on that at all. And then we have our 2 ratchets. It's always hard to tell the quality on these, but these don't look like they've had much work done to them. They look like almost the raw material, and most of them come with some sort of surface finish to them. And this isn't using the same sort of pink universal grease. There's something else going on there. It's a little bit stickier. And in here is a little purple section where the spring locates. Now, these are the bits that I'm always wary of with these brands because they're significantly different to DT Swiss, but at the same time, they don't always supply all these spares. Whenever I bang on about this, you know, does your direct from China wheel brand supply spares? This is what I mean. It's like this bit here, because when this bearing wears out, you'll be surprised how quickly this can start getting elements of wear and corrosion on it, and things just don't fit together. And these axles here, you'll often find when the bearings start to seize, they'll start to score into these axles, and you'll want to replace the axles to get that good fit back again. So these are the bits that I'm always banging on about, that they're never on their website. So when I say please go and check the spare parts, I know in the comments everyone's like, yeah, but you can buy spare spokes and there's like 3 come in the box. Don't really care, because when people come to us and say, can you fix my wheel because it's creaking, it's these parts here that are critical to us. I haven't gone onto their website and I haven't checked, but I strongly suspect that they are not there. If I'm wrong, please let me know in the comments. All seems to go together pretty well. There's a little preload collar in there as well to nudge out of the way. All locates pretty well. So what we have here, we have a 1-2 cross design on both sides, and they are using a different brand of spokes. So normally when we see these branded with the Venoa brand. These ones are completely unbranded. So I've got my little jig here to try and tell us what sort of tension they're at. And if you haven't seen us do this on the channel before, essentially what we're using is a standard Park Tool tension meter that every bike shop has, but you can't rely on the Park Tool website to tell you what the tensions are. Remember, we had that conversation with Calvin about this. So we take a tension reading, and this is reading 19 on this gauge. That means absolutely nothing in terms of kilograms of force or newtons or whatever you want to measure it. So we have this little jig here, and what I can do is put a spoke in this and then adjust the tension by winding this handle here. So as I wind this, you'll see this is coming up. And essentially what I do is just reverse engineer. So I'm trying to get to the point where I see a 19, which you'll see I'll need to take this off to read we're about 122 kilograms of force. So the reason we're doing this, because I want to make sure not only are all the spoke tensions within a certain tolerance, with a certain variance, I also want to make sure they are actually tight. Now 120 is about right for a steel spoke. It's a little bit on the low side by about 10 kilograms of force or so for a carbon spoke, but it is uniform. So I've been around with my tensionometer, I've just been around to check, and the tensions on this are pretty much perfect. You know, this is 19, 19, that was a little bit lower, 18. So this could be better, but it's definitely okay. On the drive side here, you can see we've got a radial pattern and much fewer spokes. So it's much more important that the uniformity is there with the spoke tensions. On this case, we're more like a 19.5. So a little bit tied to here, 19.5. I've already been around and done the same thing with the back wheel, and I won't bore you with that. In actual fact, they're really, really good. They're pretty uniform and they're actually quite equal left and right. In fact, the back wheel is pretty much exactly the same. It's 19 and 19 on both sides again, which is quite rare and actually quite hard to achieve. It means that the wheel builder really did put some attention to detail in getting their spoke length absolutely right and dialed that in. Just gonna use our boroscope here. So what a look on the inside does, it tells us a few things. One, it gives us an idea of the general construction of the rim itself and how it was made. With wheels, you have a few options. You either use like an inflatable bag on the inside that you use to get the compression, or sometimes you use something much more of a solid mold that you can then melt out, if you like, with chemicals. And sometimes they're made in sections and bonded together. So this looks like it was made with that compression bag, which is fairly common to be fair, and you can see those sort of ridge marks that that bag leaves behind. Also see those little yellow dots are the actual holes where you'd get in there with a tool. And on the other side here, if I just move this around, we should see there is the nipple head. There we go, we've got a really good shot there. You can see right the way down the rim itself, you can see all those what they call tentin marks there. You can also see there's no reinforcing layer across the top here, which is a little bit unusual. We'd normally get to see like a layer of 4K weave, something a bit stronger in that section, but I mean, without being there at the factory, you don't really know for sure. But pretty standard construction, nothing too special. So there we go. I don't really have any complaints about these at all. Absolutely perfectly fine wheels. The hubs we recognise from other things on the market like the Erie Research and Fast Forward that we've shown you before. The spokes are non-branded, but they look very similar to the Venoa spokes. A little bit of a concern about the internals of the rear hub. Maybe 9Velo have now got those parts on the website, I don't know. The thing that's most interesting to me is when these stack up to price versus weight. I'm just going to take the front wheel as an example here. And the front wheel with a valve there is 691 grams, which is almost exactly the same weight as one of our favourite wheels. This is the Fast Forward Raw 55, so same rim depth, same spoke count. This uses the Venoa spokes, made in Holland, great warranty, and all the hub internals and spokes. You can now buy individual spokes on the Fast Forward website. These come in at 691, so exactly the same. So whether the markup in price is worth it for you, I'm just gonna leave that up to you guys. Get down in the comments, tell me what you think. I don't know what the price difference is. It's probably around £800 to £900, I'd imagine. Whether you see your wheels as more of an investment piece from a European country or perhaps something more disposable from factory direct. Again, please get your thoughts down in the comments. So those 9Velo wheels, I just Googled it, they are $1,289 US, and apparently that is with free shipping and duty prepaid as well. So yeah, there's about $800 to $900 ish difference depending on whether you want the ceramic bearing upgrade. The Fast Forward ones already come with ceramic bearings, so yeah, about what I thought. One little curveball I do want to throw in here because we have the opportunity, the Zipp 303 SW, a wheel set that's always going to get mentioned around this price point. This is the £1,000 one that just launched with the tire pressure sensor, not the NSW one that we talked about in a previous video. This is the one rated for gravel. It's also 40mm deep, and this with its tire pressure sensor and steel spokes is coming in at 664 grams. So yeah, I am actually pretty impressed with the new Zipp 303 SWs and the 35 3 wheels, to be fair. I think they're an impressive weight. Now, I loved all your comments around the hookless. Like, there is a lot of hate out there for hookless. I'm with you, don't get me wrong. I'm maintaining an open mind, one, because we are a bike shop, we have to deal with this. Giant bikes still come with hookless wheels. We have to be informed as bike mechanics. I'm still very much on the fence. I do think you still get a slightly better tyre profile on some tyre sizes, but that is such a subtle difference, if it makes any difference whatsoever. But there we go, just putting it up on this video as a comparison for your comment and analysis, really. Okay, let's get this bike built, because I am so curious to get this built up and see what the actual final build weight is. Right, we're all built and almost ready to go. Our customer's going to come and get a fit in. In fact, quite exciting news. The owner of this bike has actually agreed to come and collect it and be on camera and talk us through why he chose all these components and what he thinks to it now he's seen this video. Talking of which, I do have some concerns aside from the frame. These wheels are giving me a bit of a concern. So got a tyre on now and inflated up to 86 psi. We've got tubes in. Coincidentally, if you are fitting latex tubes in here to save weight, you don't need to buy the STR tubeless ready tyre. That would save you an awful lot of weight and cost. Looks like these spokes have lost even more tension. This is really weird, because the last set of 9 benders we had, they were super tight, like 140 kilograms of force, and I was nervous that they were probably too tight. These now, I think, are too loose. So Park Tool TM1, and we've got a whole bunch of spare spokes. They actually provide you with 3 spokes. I've got one in our little tension gauge here. So all we need to do is take a deflection reading. And remember, they were reading about 19 without the tyre on. And we are now down to, that's like 16 and a half, 17. That one there is down to 15. You know, as you go around, they're all reading significantly below what they were. So we have lost a lot of tension. That's a very, very compliant wheel. On the non-drive side, it's just as bad. Yep, we're down to 15, 16, a significant amount of tension. But what does that actually mean in reality? Well, if we come back to our spoke here, this is our spoke, remember, not branded, and calibrate all this. So let's bring that up to about 100. There we go, that'll do. So then we just take a deflection reading on this, a little bit higher, that's more like 18. So just gonna drop some tension off. So there we go. We've now got a reading of probably just a little bit over 15 to be generous. And when I remove this, this is going to give us a spoke tension of 76 kilograms of force. Now that to me is way too low, especially when you consider that the hub on here isn't captive. You know, literally the spokes can just fall out, and for that you need a lot more tension. Okay, with that all said, let's just have a final weigh in, see what sort of weight we've actually achieved. And this is without pedals and without bar tape, and it hasn't been, the steerer tube hasn't been cut yet. We are at 7.59, 7.6, so not all that light considering how light the frame started off at. Now this begs the question, would I ride it? Not a chance in hell, but your opinion may differ, so please get your comments down below. But the other question is, what would I do instead if we were on this budget? I mean, that frame was £800, the wheels were about the same sort of money, Ultegra Groupset, you know, 1,300 quid, thereabouts. Now, I think if it was me, right now, I just looked at Merlin Cycles, they're selling a set of reserve wheels on the DT Swiss 370s, deep section again, around the £700 mark. That to me is a killer deal. There are great deals out there on really reliable wheel sets. And the frame, okay, that is a cracking deal, but looking around, I found the Selle Pressure, great frame, around £1,000, or even the hand sling I've got a sale on at the moment, about £2,000 for a fantastic frame for that sort of money. And then if I really had to condense everything down, Hambini bottom bracket is completely unnecessary in this situation, plus it will just go rusty before the end of the year. And that saddle is definitely extravagant. And if you really had to save money, a Shimano 105 Groupset, get rid of that cassette that comes with it and upgrade it to an Ultegra or Dura-Race one, and you pretty much gram for gram got your performance back at a much cheaper price point. But what would you do? Get your comments down below, and we're going to go and catch up with the owner and find out what he thinks. before you guys meet Scott, I think it's going to be pretty clear to you that his bike's a little bit on the small size for him. It's not his fault. He definitely used all the size indicator charts that are available on their website, but what's come through is a little bit on the small side for him. We couldn't quite get the seat post all the way up. And here's one of the problems. You can't just take it back to the shop. You can't just send it back to China for the factory for a refund. This is the bike that he's got now, although there are some modifications we might be able to make. Let's go and meet Scott.
There's a big thing on the Chinese market at the moment.
Massive, yeah, all over YouTube.
Yeah, and I just wanted to see what it's all about. So I thought I'd take a bit of a risk, a gamble. And
so Light Carbon's got an excellent reputation on YouTube. What was your experience like dealing with them?
Initially it was good. I had a small problem with the frame I ordered, and they had to make some changes, or they had to actually make a completely new frame.
Yeah.
But other than that, it was pretty straightforward. I think it took about 3 months to get the frame.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, it's quite long.
It is quite a long way. Yeah, we do the same when we buy like light carbon wheels. It takes forever to get here. You do worry about all, because you have to pay first, don't you?
Yeah, it was a bit...
So you'll do one if it's going to turn up.
I think I paid with PayPal, so
yeah.
I thought there was some sort of security there.
That's really good advice, actually, yeah. I mean, the frame, obviously you've seen the video now, and the frame looks like fantastic quality. It's a bit squidgy, but it's passed all its ISO regulations according to their website. And the weight limit, I think you asked about the weight limit and you were happy with that and stuff, so it's all good. But one little thing that's come up in the bike fit is we're actually at the limit here of your seat post height. There's a minimum limit just here, and there's not an awful lot of seat post out.
No, that did surprise me actually. I did expect it to go higher. But
yeah, you could do with another 5 millimeter on your seat height really, but I think we'll get back in touch with them and see where that goes. Handlebar all looks great. This is all fitted together, really nice. And what was the frame cost?
I think the cost was around £650.
No, it's landed cost, no import taxes, no nothing on top of that, no shipping. That was just.
That was, I think that's the grey area. Yeah.
You still don't
We probably shouldn't go into that.
Okay, quick interruption. I wasn't going to push Scott on this. What I imagine he means by the grey area is that quite often they under-report the value of the bike. That might not be what happened in this case, but as far as Scott's concerned, he got a bill for import, he paid a bill for import, he received the bike, job done. Anything else outside of that is up to Light Carbon and HMRC, not for us to worry about.
That was the cost of it.
Yeah, okay.
And it's similar for the wheels. I think the wheels was slightly more, I think £800.
The wheels for me, that's probably my biggest area of concern really. I've reached out to 9 Vela, I think you have as well, haven't you? And you haven't had an awful lot of stuff. Yeah. They've been really responsive to me, like you'll get an email back, the next day, which has been brilliant. They don't really understand my concern. I've sent them a video just recently to say this is what I'm trying to demonstrate. I've basically sent them this video. What's interesting to me that they said that the maximum spoke tension for the rim is 130 kilograms of force, and we've obviously seen rims here in the past which are 140, and these are now like 70 something. So they worry me a little bit, in all honesty. They've not been completely clear as to what it should be. So I don't know whether that's unfounded or not. That's the one thing that gives me a little bit of concern. But other than that, looks fantastic. For context, I've got a fast forward Raw 44. These use the Venoa spokes. There's a whole video about that. I'll link that down below. And taking it on the drive side like before, got a reading here of 21 on the Park TM1. Okay, remember these, we've got the Erie Research wheels that are attached to the Colnago V5 RS. Remember, you can still win this in the raffle. There's about 8 weeks to go before the draw. And here again on the drive side, on the Venoa spokes, the same, we have got a reading of 19.5. Okay, back up in the studio, what the hell does 20 on a TM1 actually mean? Well, this is our spoke tension rig. Again, if you haven't seen this on the channel before, some videos down below where you can see that. This is all zeroed, and in here is a Venoa spoke, and we're just going to dial on some tension. I'm going to take this up to about 120, which is about where I suspect it to be. There we go. Now we've got a reading of 20 on the TM1 again. And the tension for that is 108. Now that's a lot more realistic for carbon wheel with the tyre inflated to around 85 PSI. I don't know about you, but I feel a lot more confident in that than I do those 9 Velos. Now, more about you, because you've got a picture there of your son. This is Callum, and
that's my boy.
This is the whole story behind it, because let's face it, you're fairly new to cycling and you built this bike up for a very special thing. Do you want to tell us about it, Scott?
So yeah, this is my son Callum. Early this year he was diagnosed with cancer, brain tumour, and so he's had the standard chemo radiotherapy that is offered by the NHS. He needs more. He needs other treatments. We have to explore new options, and it's all at a cost. So I'm hoping to raise
We'll put those links down below so you can read that full story.
Brilliant, that'd be amazing.
Up here, and it's shocking really, and by the sounds of it, how he's dealing with it is incredible.
Oh, he's been amazing, very positive. He's into his fitness, cycling. He's into cycling himself. It would have been great to bring him down, but he wasn't able. He's
got other things on his mind, I'd imagine.
He's got other things on his mind.
Yeah. So you're raising money with this bike. So what's the plan? What's the fundraiser? What's the trip?
London to Brighton in September.
Cool.
We thought we'd...
Classic ride. Yeah. Brilliant. And have you ever ridden that far before? No,
but well, I kind of have, but not for anything like that.
Yeah.
I usually do around 25 miles,
okay.
30 miles. This is 55, I think it is. So it will be a little bit more.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm primarily riding gravel, so to get this road bike.
Like a first serious road bike goes, it's pretty out there, isn't it?
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't go do anything. If you speak to my wife, I don't do anything by half, so she'll vouch for that. But yeah, I thought, why not?
Brilliant. Well, I've got to say thank you for letting us have the opportunity to look at it. We really don't do much with the Chinese manufacturers for reasons that we've explained on the channel before. So it was interesting for me to get a glimpse into this from a legitimate source, someone that's brought it themselves, not a map deck special that's been sent from them. This is about as legitimate a look at this as we can possibly get. And I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. The one last thing for me is if people do want to donate to Callum's Fund, how can they do that?
So there's a GoFundMe page.
Yeah, we'll put those links down below, absolutely. And if you turn around, you've got the back of your shirt here, scan this barcode, it'll go through your screen, it'll take you straight through to Callum's fundraising page. And yeah, all I can say from us is that all of our service work here today comes as part of the donation to that. So all of our build costs, all of our bike fitting costs and stuff that you've done.
That's really kind of you.
A massive thank you and good luck with your ride and your fundraising. So yeah, thanks very much, Scott. Cheers.
Nice one.
Before we go, just a couple of points from me to cover off a few questions, which I'm sure you must have. First of all, why didn't we make any adjustments to those wheels? Well, first of all, because I don't know what those adjustments should be. Like I said, we've reached out to 9Velo. They've told me that the maximum spoke tension should be 130 kilograms of force, but not necessarily when it's a tyre on or tyre off. Until I get clarification, I don't really want to touch that. Also, there's the whole point of who's liable for that. If we touch it and make an adjustment, it's our liability. I want to tidy up those questions before I do any actual work to it. So for right now, I've informed Scott of my concerns, but I'm not willing to touch them until I'm in possession of all the facts about the right thing to do. If that changes, I will let you know. As I say, the frame itself, it's all passes ISO regulations. So, you know, the fact that it's squidgy, it's just personal preference. I don't know how it rides yet. Hopefully Scott will tell us whether that turns into a more flexible, more compliant ride. Who the hell knows? Anyway, if you did find this video useful, please let me know. Get down in the comments. Please think about having a look at Callum's GoFundMe page. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Cheers.